join in. And just like we did the other day on Monday, if when you join in, feel free to tell us where you are located, what school you represent, so we can get a feel for everyone who's joining in during this live broadcast. Again, it's a great opportunity to be able to share with you thoughts from the front lines as we're dealing with the COVID-19 crisis in our country, in our world, especially as we relate to schools and families and faculty and staff and all the transitions that we have been through. I had a little break this afternoon, and so I ran a couple errands. I had to go over to Walgreens to pick up a few things, and of course the toilet paper aisle is empty, and of course the hand wipes and so forth is empty as well. So no luck there, but you just keep trying. And then I had to drop something off at the post office. Our post office is located, at least the closest one is located over on the beach area. And so kind of sad though, I drove over there and went inside the post office. They had all this plastic protective sheeting up to protect the employees, and then just drove around the beach area. Of course, we can't go to the beach right now, and there's like no one there. So this is like spring break time. So it's pretty sad that no one is out enjoying the beautiful Florida weather and the beach locations along the way. So hopefully that will change. We just keep to the social distancing and being patient along the way, and just really doing what we're being asked to do during this time. And I know that for all of us, this is a time where we're being stretched. And so as we're being stretched, we have an opportunity to be able to learn more about ourselves, to spend more times with our families. And one of the things that I'm finding is that as we all work from home, we are finding that work is always in front of us. So I've been working from home for about 10 years now. And during that time, I've certainly adjusted and understand what it means to be able to work in a home environment. But for some of the school leaders that I've been working with and coaching along the way, this is the first time for them. And so as they have adjusted to working at home, what they're finding is that, they're always working. You're always getting the text messages, the phone calls, the emails, whatever the case may be along the way. So it's, certainly an adjustment for all of us. And we have to certainly do the best that we can along the way. But again, if you're joining in, feel free to tell us where you're located and what school you represent. And we hope to have a great turnout today. We've got a great group, and you may hear some of them in the background. They're waiting, behind the curtain on the stage here as we will be talking about some important issues related to admissions and marketing strategies within your schools along the way. And if you missed Monday's broadcast, that was a great one featuring Lisa and Susan from Linfield Christian. And they talked a lot about what they've been doing, including some virtual open houses. And Rudy Gesh was also a guest on that show as well. And so that recording is available on the website. And so you can feel free to access that if you missed that along the way. But Melody, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. And we look forward to the great conversation that we're going to have. So let me introduce for you our guests today. And so we have three great guests, and they're good friends of mine. I've had the opportunity to work with them. And again, if you're joining in, tell us who you are and where you're located. So Jason, it's great to have you from Riverside Christian in Yakima, Washington, and Karen from Faith Christian in Colorado. Great to have you on board in our broadcast. And Deborah, hey Deborah, it's great to see you from St. Thomas Academy. Had the opportunity to visit them and work with them this past summer. And so it's always great to have school leaders that I've had a chance to partner with joining in on these broadcasts. And then we have St. Mary's joining in from West Texas. And Robin, it's always good to see you on board from Christian Heritage in Trumbull, Connecticut, another school that I worked with along the way. So Robin, thanks for joining us. And we're going to have a great time during our about 55 minutes together as we focus in on some admissions and marketing strategies for schools. So let me introduce for you our guests. And let me start with Kaleen. And Kaleen Goodeill is a good friend. I had the opportunity to actually provide coaching for her when she was at Riverside Christian as the admissions and marketing director. And Kaleen, tell us a little bit about how long you've been at North Star Marketing.
Yeah, hello everyone. I have been with North Star Marketing for about 3.5 years now. And it's been a joy to partner with private independent schools across the nation and helping provide strategic marketing for online marketing for them to reach their enrollment goals.
Excellent. Thanks, Kaleen. And Kaleen works with a number of the schools that I partner with. And then I also want to introduce Laura Eisenga. Laura is a great addition to the North Star Marketing team. She also has background as an admissions and marketing director in a school. How long have you been with North Star?
I am coming up on my first year. In May, I'll be here for a year. And I love working alongside with Kaleen and excited to be a part of this today.
Excellent. And then last but not least, the guru of marketing at North Star Marketing, a good friend of mine, Andy Lynch. Andy, great to have you here. Now, Andy, you launched and started North Star Marketing, what, 20 years ago?
Oh, hello. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so been doing this for 20 years and working with schools for 19 of those 20.
Excellent. And Andy's been a great friend. I think I've known you for about 15 years, somewhere along those lines.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and it's great to collaborate with you all on a number of school projects. And so just appreciate your involvement with this live broadcast interview today. And so for some of you, you may know that Kaleen and I recorded a webinar about a week or so ago, and that was pushed out through my blog, and we've had a lot of people watch that. And we wanted to use this time as a way to be able to follow up with that webinar. And I have some specific questions that I want to ask of the group here. And what I first want to begin with is just understanding from your perspective, what types of shifts in marketing should schools be taking right now? I mean, we're all going through challenging times, nothing that we really planned for because we didn't know that this would happen. But what shifts in marketing should schools be taking now?
Yeah, it's a great place to start. And it's pretty clear that when we can't do business as usual as marketing and missions professionals, we've got to rethink our strategy. There's a lot that hasn't changed, but certainly a lot that changed virtually overnight. By this point, the school has its operations in motion. People are figuring out the new norms, the teachers, leadership, the parents, the kids, they're figuring out what it means to do virtual school. And marketing and missions professionals have probably been doing a lot of things that conventionally they haven't had to do. Maybe wearing more of a communications, even a PR hat in these seasons. But now that you're through a lot of those sort of operational shifts and you're just really wrapping your head around the marketing and mission strategy, what that looks like in a virtual world, I would first just sort of call a timeout and zoom out and take a big picture. Just take a good look at the big picture of the organization before you zoom in and get super tactical. And by that, I mean, take some time to look your mission, vision, and values right in the eyes. Why you do what you do. Because while an awful lot has changed in a very short period of time in terms of how your school delivers value, nothing has changed fundamentally about your mission. Your mission should be a focusing agent in this season in a very powerful way. If you look at that, I'll bet it says very little about requiring a physical space to do that. Although when your mission was written, that's how that's what people had in mind. But when you look at the end result, does it say that it requires a physical space to put out the product that you aim to put out? My guess is it says more about the quality of the education that you plan to deliver and the outcomes for the families that you intend to deliver, and not so much the specific vehicle that you need to do that through. So when you get families questioning value, I think it's important that you take them back to why they signed up in the first place, because materially that has not changed. So lean into your mission, vision, and values right now. It's the essence of your culture and ultimately why families choose to align with you. So that's first, to zoom out. Number two, I'd encourage you to ask a very important and fundamental question, and that's, do you plan to be in operation next year? And you may have been moving so fast that never occurred to you. Well, of course, but do you plan to be doing this next year? Do you envision your organization continuing to move forward? And if so, I mean, what needs to happen to make that a reality? Well, first, you're going to need a viable education model. And by that time, come the fall, God willing, we'll all be back on campus. But there's the possibility that you'll be doing then what you are doing now. So you need to embrace that reality. You're going to need to retain current families as part of that continuity strategy, and you're going to need to recruit new families into the vision. So what does that mean for marketing and admissions? It means adapting your strategy for retention and adapting your strategy for recruitment. It means that practically you need to retool your tracking dashboards. The tracking dashboards that you had in place may have been wired for an on-campus experience. And if you haven't retooled those to track new metrics, that's a great place to start. One of my favorite communicators, Andy Stanley, puts it this way: your direction determines your destination. So the path that you're on now, don't be surprised when you get where you're going if you keep doing what you're doing. So what are the essential activities that you need to maintain to encourage the results you want? And are you tracking those week over week with your marketing and admissions team? And if you're not doing this currently, you need to get into a rhythm in this virtual world of having standing marketing meetings with your key stakeholders. And where you're looking at those dashboards, where you're looking at the defensive strategy, you're looking at the offensive strategy, and you're looking the reality in the eyes. And then finally, just understand that your customers' underlying needs are still there. If they had problems, if a family had problems before and they were considering making a switch and doing some school shopping, it's not like their reality completely went away. It may have been paused, but in some cases, the virtual learning environment has just affirmed for them that they actually need to follow through on that decision, make a change for the good of their child. Some of the stats that I'm hearing are just shocking in terms of kids still not being delivered education right now. In a conversation with a school down in Florida, in one particular county, more than 2/3 of those families are still, their kids are in the backyard, they're walking up and down the streets. It's not happening. So surely there are families that are looking to make a move.
And you're talking about public school kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we as private school educators, independent school educators, have an opportunity to really show our value.
That's right. And they just need to know that that you can have this conversation, that you're prepared even now to make that transition. So there's a message there that needs to be retooled and adapted to their reality. So zoom out before you zoom in. Ask yourself, do you plan to be in business next year? If so, what needs to happen between now and then? And then understand that your prospects' underlying needs are still there. They just need to be addressed differently.
That's great. Thanks, Andy. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I think along going with that, once you have done your zoom out and you're starting to zoom in, and just making sure that everything that's in that admissions funnel refers now to an in-person visit. So many of us have those calls to action where we are, schedule a tour, come on campus. That's kind of our goal, is that we want to meet with these families in person. Once we show them our school, then we can really seal the deal in that admissions process. And that's all changed now, where you need to have in-person, well, not in-person meetings with them, but more virtual meetings and virtual open houses. And So making sure that on your website, those CTA buttons that say schedule a tour are now talking about your virtual tour and are talking about your virtual open house. And that's looking at your website. It's looking at those automated emails that you're sending out. It's in your email signature. We kind of call it your triage, kind of the first things you need to do. It's just really sending a message. We are on top of things, we know what's happening, and we are adjusting very quickly. And it gives a lot of confidence to those prospective parents. Just make sure that that path also is really clear from start to finish. They don't know what they're getting into when they're signing up for this virtual tour. So really mapping it out that this is going to happen, and then we're going to move into this, making sure that that path is really linear and they know what they're signing up for and what those next steps are. Making sure you have a very clear number to call, that there's going to be someone answering the phone call on the other side, and who that email needs to go to, and then communicating with your team kind of what that message that Andy was talking about is. What are the steps we need to walk through to make sure everyone's on the same page so that you're communicating really clearly.
Yeah, I think that's so important, Laura. I've been on so many school websites lately, and they're still talking about the traditional campus visit. Come see our campus. And that's the call to action. And yet, hopefully, we're going to get back there, in the upcoming months. But we have to transition, and as you said, we have to put our triage plan in place that we can be able to attract families to a different type of virtual experience.
Right.
That's great. Well, we've got a number of other people that have joined in. Tammy from Vancouver, and Courtney. Hey, Courtney, it's great to have you from FACS. And Tanya from Calvin Christian in Chicago. Worked with Tanya and the team there. This is probably like 7 or 8 years ago. And Liz from Santa Fe Christian, a great school in Southern California. I've also had the opportunity to work with. And Abby at Southside Christian, another school that I've worked with. And then Jody is telling Laura hi, and I saw your response back. And then of course Laura from Rochester Catholic Schools, who I've also worked with. So I've got a lot of friendly people online for this conversation of schools that I've worked with along the way. So that's great. So let me ask you another question. How do you see schools responding and adapting to COVID-19?
Yeah, I think that there's tremendous opportunity in adversity if we have the right mindset. If we look for those opportunities to pivot and to create value in new ways. So it's just been amazing to see how quickly so many marketing and mission professionals have stood up virtual tours and been involved in strategic messaging and gotten really creative in terms of how to showcase their schools at a distance. And around here at North Star, we frequently say we have to deal with the reality that is rather than the one we hope to see. And I see that schools are stepping up to the challenge. And there's a wonderful opportunity here, I think, for marketing leaders to step up and provide a level of leadership that only the marketing department, only marketing and missions can in this season. And as the ones responsible for the retention and the recruitment efforts, we have to rethink the playbook and those sort of well-worn grooves through the admissions process. Some of you could give that tour blindfolded. You've counted the number of steps. And you've got people queued up, and I should take them into this classroom because this teacher's going to light up, or that third grade class is just really energetic, or you've got the script and it cold. But you're having to rewrite all of that to deliver that sense of value and warmth at a distance. So I think just by realizing that the buyer journey is going to look different, and they're going to have to reroute some of those well-worn paths, that's requiring creativity, fresh thinking, and a level of technological prowess that for some we really haven't had to lean into in that way. So learning a whole new suite of tools, trying to get your hands, if you're on lockdown and can't get to your school, sorting through digital files in the cloud to try to see what you got that you can tell your story with. So there's a lot of creativity that's really inspirational. and a lot of collaboration to try to deliver an impactful experience, and continue to show value through social, through your website, both to current families and for those who are window shopping right now, to create an impactful experience for them as well.
Yeah, so important.
Yeah. Those first few weeks, we were all adjusting to, okay, what does digital learning look like at our school? And just getting that underfoot, and now communicating that on our website and making sure our website is that tool that it needs to be to communicate to families. I think there's still a lot to be done and to develop as this continues on. But now, even, a few weeks into quarantine and digital learning, we're seeing schools get even more creative for what does this look like even after a family has done the virtual tour? What does that look like to nurture these families even forward? And I've had a lot of questions of, we don't want to be insensitive to these families. Obviously, we're in a whole new reality, but we still need to follow up with them and, see where they're leaning towards for the next year. So I encourage you to continue to be a great, provide that communication and make sure you are sharing what your school does. It's been so fun to track the social media channels of all of our schools and the creative ways they're going about sharing unique opportunities for teachers to connect with their students during the lunch day, not even just the classroom. So continue to share that, but make sure you are communicating very clearly for your prospects via email and even touch points that could be Zoom meetings or FaceTimes one-on-one. But as we lean into this and adjust to this new normal, make sure that your lead nurturing continues as well.
Exactly. So important. We've had some more join us, Jen from Duval Charter School in Flagler, and Jennifer from Greenville Classical Academy in South Carolina, and Bianca from Brazil American School of Recife. So it's great to have you here. It's wonderful that people are joining in from all over the world to be part of this. And that's what I wanted to do through this, is really help schools practically think about what are some of the things we need to do. How can we implement this in our school? And so I think that's an important question for us to really focus on. What should a school be doing online now? Because the world's online. And so how can we, take advantage of it in a good, positive way? What advice would you guys be giving for schools right now?
Yeah. I think one of the most practical shifts right now is the shift in the message. To help your customer understand, help those families understand that the school search doesn't have to stop. It's just going to look different. The process will look different. So that short list they had where they wanted to do those campus visits and have these conversations, for some of them, they may be under the impression that they don't have the wherewithal to make that decision with confidence. So your messaging needs to lean into that reality and unpack the possibilities for them in a very empathetic way. And I'm going to cover this with Rick in a subsequent webinar, but just this concept of adapting your messaging for right now, it comes back to identifying the core beliefs that audience needs to hold to take a specific action. So what are the beliefs that need to be closely held by your audience to lead them down that path? And we're going to unpack that in a separate webinar, but thinking through that process, not just in a one-size-fits-all way, but by age and stage. Because the problems that the parent of an incoming sophomore, for example, what they're solving for is very different than a parent of an incoming kindergartner. For that sophomore, it could be, man, I wanted my kid to have a shot at varsity sports, and they may not even have a season. Or, socially, how are they going to fit into a virtual class? Whereas, choosing a kindergarten, the anxiety is already up here for so many reasons. For a parent doing that for the first time, how's this going to work? Is my kid going to get a fair shot in an assessment? And on and on. Do I do transitional kindergarten, or guide me through that? Dialing in that messaging by age and stage is going to be really important in this season. And then I also think there's a lot of power in just giving them the framework for doing that window shopping right now. Matter of fact, that's a tool that North Star is building, a pre-structured campaign that schools can plug and play. that helps parents understand how to step through that process and do the window shopping in a way that they're confident about. Which leads me to the second recommendation. We're getting questions, should we stop our social spend or our Google ad spend right now? Well, only if you don't plan to do any recruiting. So,
that's a great answer, Andy.
I mean, you got to go where your customers are, and more than ever, they are fully dialed in to social channels. They're doing so much of their shopping online right now, so the opportunities for you to connect with them are manifold. So landing pages should be dialed in to reflect the current reality. The call to action, enabling them to pick a time through Calendly or some other social plugin where they can go ahead and sign up for an initial conversation, make it easy as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we mentioned this in our webinar, Rick, but also be thinking through in your buyer journey, what were you putting in the hands physically of families, whether it was your brochure of the whole school or that kindergarten packet that family really needs to have, and think how you can pivot that to a digital resource to nurture your leads with. So make sure you have something on your website as well as something to email out to those prospects you have that is providing value to them at this time, that gives them more information about your school and also helps problem solve. As Andy was saying, break that down by age and stage. So what is a mom thinking through as she's preparing her kid for kindergarten this year? I think she's a little bit more stressed than she would have been in a different year just because of the realities at hand. And also, what is that high schooler that's approaching their freshman year? What are they worried about? And what are you going to do to share about your school to those families in need? So be thinking through the resources you already have. And if they're physical, how you can digitalize them to share those out on website and email, and also be thinking through what you could create in this time. Again, we don't know how long this new reality will be. So while we're at home, let's use those resources and develop really effective tools to further nurture and provide great information to our families. I also think it's, as we're getting creative in all of this, we all can relate to a very full inbox full of messages from all the CEOs of all the companies. So yes, we're inundated with email, and it's still important to communicate via email, but think outside the box of how you can use text messaging if you haven't already with your current prospects to follow up with them, check in on them, especially after they have that one-on-one potential Zoom or FaceTime meeting with you. I think I am much more inclined to respond to a text than I am an email right now. So be thinking through how you can use a tool or have a phone designated for your admissions team to have that text conversation.
Can you share your cell phone number right now so everybody can text you?
In the whole world.
Again, that's why the investment of a phone for your admissions person is now more important than ever, because they can have their personal life still checked off, but then can leave that phone to appropriate communication during this time. So highly recommend that if that's something that's available to your team. And again, really be thinking through the lead nurturing. You don't want to be leaving these prospects hanging. They're still shopping. They're still vetting their options. And what are you doing to communicate with them in this time?
Just their decision may be delayed a little bit, but we still need to be in front of them. So yeah, and I think that's been another big question too of like, okay, enrollment deadlines are approaching or they've already passed for a lot of schools. What do? We need to finalize budgets. This is the time to be flexible. Yes, we want our numbers and our budgets finalized, but these families have shifted in a whole new reality. Many have lost jobs. So this is a time to be flexible, extend grace, and devise a plan B for what those enrollment deadlines will look like.
I also think too, just to be really mindful of your retention and to continue building on that culture that your school already has. And like Kaleen was saying, it's so fun to look through the Facebook feeds of all of our schools and just see the incredible ways that schools are already doing this. And it's important to maintain that culture that you've worked so hard to build. And by that, I mean your homecoming week, your dress up days, the routines that you regularly hold, the events that you regularly do in your classrooms, whether that's pajama day or, dress like a hero day, all of those things can still be done virtually. And even actually putting them online is allowing more people to come into your culture, which can be fun. If there's a prospective parent that's watching your Facebook page, they get a really in-depth look at what your culture is now and seeing how engaged your families are during this time, which is really fun. So think about doing that online homecoming week or doing online chapel if you're a faith-based school. The school that my kids go to, they start every day with the Pledge of Allegiance. And so they're having kids video themselves at home, and then our school is posting them every morning when they would normally do the Pledge of Allegiance. So it's just fun to see families coming together and getting excited about that and supporting each other through that time. And then we're also recommending just a quick 5-minute fix to look at your Google My Business profile and make sure that that is up to date. When you do a Google search for your school, it's the little profile that pops up on the right side of the screen. And it really gives a pretty in-depth glimpse of what your school is all about. And there's ways to personalize that. North Star has put out a really helpful blog post about that as far as updating the events and updating. There's a COVID update now that Google My Business has available. And so a little bit of time spent there can go a long ways too, just letting your parents, your potential parents, know that you're moving along.
Yeah. And I'll just know, as you're culling all of those photos for a virtual tour, now's a great time to throw more photos on your Google My Business profile. So make a note of that.
Hey, Laura, by the way, every day is pajama day for Rick, by the way.
I have a nice shirt on. Come on.
Yeah.
But what's below the waist? That's the question.
It's not. I'll tell you, this is not my pajama pants. I want you to know that. So, yes, it's kind of fun how we're all adjusting to life on camera, and you know, the focus is from, like, you know, midsection up. So we have to look good there, and who cares what's below, right? But our international audience is certainly here. I've seen John from Trinity College School in Canada. Great to have you here. And then Ramal from Albania. That's awesome. And then Shannon from the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Welcome.
I was recently in St. Thomas and St. John. Beautiful place. And then also Jean from Toronto. And then we have a couple other people from the States, Marnie from Buffalo, and then also Angie from Goldsboro, North Carolina. And North Star Marketing is located in Burlington, North Carolina.
That's right. Hello, neighbor.
Yeah, that's where Andy's located. And Kaleen and Laura are out in Washington State right now. So that's where their families are located. And so great to have people from all around the world participating in this. So that's pretty awesome. So as we think about, you know, what we're doing online, I think, you know, a key question that we may have already answered, should a school advertise online now or hold off? What's your advice?
Yeah, I think the question is, when a family's searching for private, faith-based, independent schools in your area, are you showing up on search results? Are you optimized? Is your website optimized so that you're there organically? And are you buying your way to the top from Google Ads? That's an important thing to evaluate this time. I would encourage you after this to go Google yourself and see. And if you're not there, there's a lot of work to be done.
I apologize for the phone ringing in the background. So we have a home phone that nobody knows the number to, except for a couple of spam people that call, as well as my mother-in-law. So it's probably my mother-in-law who's calling right now. So that's all good. She needs to talk to my wife, and that's totally fine. So I just thought I would.
You need to get that, Rick?
No, I'm okay. Okay, she can handle it. So hey, this is the reality of, you know, we're broadcasting.
The reality is working
Sorry
from
to interrupt you,
home.
Kaleen.
No, I've had the opportunity to meet many clients' kids and coworkers' kids over the last week. It's a joy during this time for sure. So yes, evaluate. I would encourage you to Google yourself, Google your school, use terms that parents will be using, not your school name, but private school, Christian school, what have you, and see if you're visible. If you're not, I would highly encourage you to invest in Google Ads to get your way to the top of search results. That brand visibility is crucial and very important at this time. You do not want to go dark in your visibility on the web. And if budget is limited at this time and you haven't dabbled in social media advertising, I would really recommend dipping your toes in that. It's an easy way to get started with really limited budget. You can test with maybe even a budget of $25, $50, see the visibility it gets you, and then go from there. But really encourage, if that's not already part of your strategy in online marketing, that you take some time to think through that. We've helped many clients pivot their social media ads at this time from, coming on for an open house or a visit to those virtual tours, and communicate and continually pushing lead generation social ads as well that are focused in on ages and stages. So if you're not already doing that, I would encourage you to get started. Another great strategy within social right now is retargeting. So think through all those families that have visited your website in the past 180 days pre-COVID. There's an opportunity on Facebook to retarget those families and have an ad show up on their feed. And I can't think of a better time to do that as we're scrolling through COVID updates, checking in on family online. Oh, hey, there's that school I Googled 2 months ago. Maybe I should see what's up. Make sure your website is up to date so they have that clear path forward of what it would look like to continue in admissions. But highly recommend thinking through a retargeting ad on social.
And that retargeting ad strategy, that takes another level of sophistication, where you're having to deal with pixels through Facebook and you're dealing with tracking and all that. And so from my perspective, that's an example of how you might use a company like North Star to be able to come alongside you and be able to help you with those strategies. Again, I'm selling them and what they're doing because I believe strongly about the level of service that they provide. But if you need help with Google paid ads, with branding, with website design, with retargeting ads, whatever it may be, North Star Marketing can be a great go-to source for you. So it's my little commercial plug.
Thank you, Rick. Just to pile on a bit more from what Kaleen was saying there, is it time to advertise or hold off? Well, that's like asking a barber if you need a haircut. I mean, of course you do. The reality is you've got an opportunity here to really target messaging and to version that for the reality that people are living in. And to pull back from that is missing a very strategic window of opportunity here. So, if you plan to be doing this again next year, you got to get qualified prospects into the pipeline and get the right size messaging in front of them. And that starts with connecting with them where they are, which is in the digital space.
Yeah, that's so important. It's really an ongoing foundational strategy that we need to be utilizing. Right. So Karen mentioned that she recently started senior stories on her Facebook page, and I feel bad for the seniors because their senior year doesn't look like what they had planned. No. All the events, the activities, the things that you look forward to throughout your school. And that's one way that we can celebrate our seniors. And so I appreciate you sharing that, Karen, because I always recommend that to schools is use the month of April, May to be able to highlight your seniors and do them one at a time. Mm-hmm. I mean, you may have 100 in your school. That's okay. People understand as you celebrate each senior along the way and celebrate their accomplishments, what their plans are after college. I think that's very important. So great to have you here, Kim. And Kim, you're asking the question, how do principals feel about getting text messages from your vendors? So you could say I'm a vendor. I wouldn't take the approach of text messaging a principal unless they've initiated contact with me that way. If I don't have a relationship with them, I don't think that that's going to be the best way to get in front of a principal. So I'd be careful about that from my perspective. So Terry, great to have you here from Knoxville, Tennessee. Thanks for joining in. And Tara as well from Burlington, North Carolina. Great to have you here. And Adina, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Romania. So another international school leader that's joining in. So great to have you here. And then, of course, Julie, just down the road from me in Lakeland, Florida, at Lakeland Christian School. Had the opportunity to work with their team about 8 or 9 years ago. So it's been pretty cool to be able to think back and reflect over the years of all the different schools that I've had an opportunity to be able to connect with and to help along the way. And hey, Janice Crampton is joining in. So if you guys don't know Janice Crampton, you need to. Janice is the executive director, president, guru, whatever title you want to give her for ASAP. ASAP is the Association of Independent School Admissions Professionals. And this is a great group to be a part of. And I always recommend this group for schools that I'm working with. They have an annual summer institute. Hopefully it will take place. It's in Chicago this summer. I am one of the speakers and look forward to that opportunity. Hopefully we'll all be able to travel again. But Janice is a great friend and great to have her on board with us. Janice, I'll have to invite you for a future interview. So this is my formal invitation in front of everybody that you can participate in this. And then Lisa, it's great to have you from Exceed Prep down in South Florida, school that we're all working with. So great to have you a part of this. So it's fun to give a little shout outs to people as you join in. And so I appreciate that. And a couple more questions. How should schools use content marketing now? What are your thoughts about what we need to be communicating in terms of content online?
Yeah, great question. So where our heads tend to go first is those marketing messages that we are sending out primarily through ads, through social in terms of content marketing. But I would encourage you first take a step back and make sure the content on your marketing platform is solid. So when I talk about marketing platform, I'm talking about your brand, your messaging, your multimedia, that's your photography, your video content, your website, your collateral, whereas one time that was print, it's now digital, and then your presentation collateral. That core marketing platform needs to be solid, so as you promote and you invite interest, your platform is ready, your website, your video content, those core elements are really buttoned up, and your content first there needs to reflect your current reality and be able to sell your school virtually well. And secondly, as I mentioned earlier, I would just think through by age and stage what the challenges are that parents and students are solving for in this season. So preschool, elementary, middle, high school. Preschool, they're already anxious about this. How's my kid going to get a solid start right now in a virtual world? Elementary school, those are important grades for getting the mechanics right that will support you later. Middle school, those are just wonky years. There's just no two ways about it. The kids are online all the time these days, concerned about them being productive and staying away from unhealthy content. And then high school, it's, a bummer. My kid's high school experience is going to look very different. They're essentially losing a year. That's what a lot of them are feeling right now. So if you step through with empathy what's happening in your customer's world by age and stage, and you're asking some key questions like what's happening in their world, what questions are they asking, what emotions are they experiencing, what's the fundamental problem they're trying to solve for right now, and what actions can they take to solve that problem. If you think through that framework through the different strata of your organization, of the age and stage, you'll see some tremendous opportunities to deliver really relevant messages through your marketing that doesn't feel like you're pushing information that is not helpful or relevant to them. But doing that in an authentic and empathetic way, the receptivity is going to be much higher.
I remember just thinking through content when I was in the seat of a marketing and enrollment director. Content felt like a burden. I didn't have enough time to give the tours, follow up with families, develop a marketing plan, and oh wait, Rick Rick keeps telling me to write a blog. I got to write a blog. When am I going to find time to do that? And so when you're in this season and you're adjusting to working remotely and you have all of these messages to communicate clearly to your prospects and your current families, I highly recommend developing a content calendar, if you don't already have one, to organize this, not only for yourself, but to align your team with what content's going to be sent out where, and what is the strategy to push that out even further. It does not need to be fancy. It can be a Google spreadsheet document or an elaborate marketing calendar. We as a team at North Star have developed via a marketing calendar that helps organize our team and our clients and the projects and strategies we have in motion. But again, it can be as simple as a Google sheet. So I would, again, recommend, as you're thinking through the communication that needs to go out, thinking through the blog post to share parents and students' experience of digital learning over the past week or so, align that in a calendar that can keep you organized, make it feel less of an overweighted burden on you, and just give you a task to start one at a time to be able to communicate and send that messaging.
Yeah, it's so important to have that content calendar so that you can know what your strategy and plan is, and you can always alter it, but to have that pathway set out for you that will keep you on track, and you'll be able to focus in on the content that you need to produce. And I think right now we're all producing a lot of content. I mean, I look at myself, I'm cranking up and ramping out, more content than I've been doing in the past. And so it's an opportunity, not only for me, but for all of us as we work to try to reach our community, our parents, our constituency. So certainly want to give you all an opportunity to ask any questions. So feel free to add those questions in the comment box. But I do want to ask the group a final question from me. Any advice that you all want to give for admissions and marketing directors right now?
Yeah, just a couple things here. I would encourage you first to just try to focus as much as you can. Do less but better. And in order to do that well, that means that you have to understand what your school needs from your seat in this season. Kaleen and Rick have done a webinar in recent months called Too Many Hats, Too Little Time, and that was in peacetime. And now that we're in the middle of a conflict, you're thinking, I was already stretched then, and our team was understaffed and had way more to do than we could then. How are we going to just continue to put on more? And I think you can't. You have to be okay with taking some things off to make room for something else that you need to do in this season. And what are some of those new hats that you may be trying on? A communications role, doing more editing and thinking through strategic communications, even with head of school. I've seen it's unfortunate, but I've seen some writing from some heads of schools that needed a lot of editing. So it could be that you're playing a communications director role in this season. You may be doing more PR than you've had to do in the past. You may be having to get deeper into a retention effort where current families are really starting to question the value. We paid for this, but we're getting this. So I think being willing to step in with a positive attitude and put on hats that you normally wouldn't have to, that leads into the necessity of learning quickly. New technology, having to learn new software to compile photos, videos, etc. Could be that you're not comfortable on camera. Well, you're going to get over that really quick right now. So that's first. Focus, do less, but do it better. Get comfy with wearing some new hats right now and understanding what the school needs for marketing in the season. Get your marketing plan mapped out in a calendar. As Kaleen was saying, if it's just in your head, it's really difficult to share what's in your head with team members who need. Or maybe your MO is we had everything written on a whiteboard in your office. That's not working right now. So we use an application we've built called VIA that maps strategies and campaigns and projects and media and content strategy, all that. Kaleen, Laura can talk to you about those things. And then just leveraging available resources so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, whether it's a pre-built campaign like we built at North Star around virtual tours or shopping for schools in the virtual world. There are lots of pre-built tools where you don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I think my advice for admissions and marketing directors is just to take one day at a time and realize that now that you are working from home and you're no longer shutting that office door behind you and leaving your school grounds, that you may feel more compelled to do all the things all the time. And I just want to encourage you to take care of yourself too. Your school and your administration needs you healthy, and your family needs you healthy. So make sure and set those parameters from home. Kaleen and I work from home for North Star Marketing, and so we're used to this lifestyle, but we also both realize that we have to set parameters for ourselves and shut off our computers and close our office doors. As you're wearing more hats, you feel more pressure to be all the best you can be for your schools, and we want you to do that. And so, Janice, I think the answer to your question of what should we stop or what should we never do, I think give yourself those boundaries, and then what you should never do, I think, is just don't stop communicating with your families, and don't close yourself off, but continue the conversations and be there for them. I've talked to a couple schools, and I think parents just want to feel, since we're so isolated, we want to feel a part of something bigger right now. And so we don't want our parents to feel like they are desperately trying to teach their children in this bubble, but there's the support group behind them, that there's other parents doing the same things. And so building on that community as much as we can, but also just give yourselves those boundaries. See what other schools are doing. I think Rick has really created an awesome community within this enrollment catalyst where we can share ideas and see what other schools are doing and have these kind of conversations. And what are you doing? What are you doing? And this collaboration is awesome. And how quickly schools have pivoted in this situation is amazing. And think of all the things you've done in the last 3 weeks to get your schools changed over to virtual learning. And so just keep learning, but also give yourself those boundaries.
Yeah, that's great advice. Go ahead, Kaleen.
I think one helpful tool that I think I've seen a lot of schools start to share, but I want to make sure it's clearly set up or explained here, is I think a lot of our time can be spent in the email and scheduling of these communications with families. And Calendly is a tool that you can use to set up your admissions team or just one individual schedule that would allow for that one-on-one communication, whether it's Zoom or another platform. And that can take off a lot of the grunt work of getting schedules aligned with families. It allows them the opportunity to see your schedule and that you have set for available times and schedule that time to set up a Zoom link. So again, I remember just the back and forth of families of finding that right time to tour can now be really pretty smooth, that you can set what your office hours are now in your home and that time that you can meet with families. So just one helpful tip on what to stop doing and wasting time in that email and that communication, and give a tool that will make you more efficient in your time and give families a really easy tool to have that conversation with you. And I think it's important to, again, communicate that clear path. Maybe that's even through a visual of what the virtual admissions process looks like now from start to finish. I think that would eliminate a lot of redundant communication and give them a clear path with helpful links through that process so that you can email that out and that's clear to all your families.
I think one other thing I'd add to the stop doing list, and this is, I have the privilege of leading messaging workshops with many of our schools to help them refine their messaging by age and stage. And one of the common missteps that I see among many schools is when they tell their story, they lead with a bunch of facts and stats and things that they find really fascinating about themselves. They tend to lead the conversation with the year the school was founded and how many kids are in the school, and all these things about, here's our motto, and here's our mascot, and here's how many acres we have, and this is how many people are on the football. And the first 2 or 3 slides, 2 or 3 minutes of the conversation is a data dump that may or may not be relevant to the audience's interest. And I would contend in most cases, the vast majority of what we tend to front load in our communications, whether it's marketing or in-person conversations, it tends to be a lot of sender-centric messaging.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff that we find important and interesting about us. And to the prospective family, it just looks like you're taking a big old corporate selfie. You're like, oh, look how amazing we are. I'm so enamored with me right now. I don't care if it's peacetime or in conflict. One thing that we need to stop doing is leading with us. And now more than ever, there's a tremendous opportunity for you to really demonstrate empathy and connect with the customer problem in an authentic way at the start of that conversation, not just in your one-to-one admissions conversations, but in all of your marketing collateral and all of your marketing platforms. So it's a great opportunity to break a bad habit.
Yeah, it really is. And I know that you'll be able to dive into more of that messaging in the webinar that we're going to do. And just to give you a little preview, Andy and I are going to be recording this webinar hopefully on Friday. And then we'll push it out through my blog. And it'll be an on-demand webinar. And Andy's going to address the topic of messaging and specifically how you would do that now during this virtual world that we're living in. So be a great opportunity for you to learn from an expert in the whole area of marketing messaging. So any other questions that you have? I know this has been a great time and our hour is almost up here, and it's been great to be able to engage with you. I do want to remind you that this live broadcast, the live show with Rick Newberry from Enrollment Catalyst, takes place twice a week. And so we'll be meeting together again on Monday at 12 o'clock. And I have a great lineup already scheduled for that live broadcast. I'm going to be interviewing the team from the Village School in Naples, Florida. So a friend of mine, Dennis Chapman, is the head of school, and Cameron Steese is the director of admissions. And then Nicole will be part of the marketing team joining us. They launched 3 virtual open houses last week. And any school that I've seen, they've been very aggressive with their approach. They had one on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evening. And so we want to learn from them. We won't only be talking about virtual open houses. We'll also be talking about how Dennis is sharing a video broadcast every Sunday evening, leading from the lanai. So one of the advantages of being here in Florida is we have lanais, which is a screened-in porch, off of our houses or condos that we live in. And so Dennis will be able to share more about that and some of the other strategies that they're using along the way. So make sure you join in, and I'm almost ready to announce the lineup for next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. And my hope is to be able to share that through my blog and on my Facebook page. So it's a great place to continuing to follow me. And then also I would encourage you to follow the North Star marketing team because they can be a great help to you. They have a lot of opportunities to be able to partner with schools on some of these specific strategies that we've talked about. So John asked the question, what software are you using to have all 4 of you on this Facebook Live presentation? Well, John, I'm so glad that you asked that question because one of the limitations of Facebook Live is that you cannot do that. So there's a program out there called Be Live, BE, then Live. So if you can look for their website, be.live. It provides a online broadcasting studio for you. And so it's pretty easy to use. I went through a 1-hour online training to be able to learn how the program works. And so it gives me the opportunity to have up to 3 other guests. I could also show visuals. So if I wanted to showcase a website or a PowerPoint presentation, I could do that as well. And as you've been able to see, I can program in key questions along the way. I can have my logo in the top right-hand corner. So it really enhances your Facebook Live broadcast. And I've been encouraging schools to consider using this because in our world right now, you could do some live interviews. You could actually model you could put in place what I'm modeling for you. So I have a live broadcast twice a week. You could do the same within your school. And why not use that as an opportunity to be able to interview parents and faculty and board members and students and talk about what they're going through and how they're adjusting and how you're helping them during this time. Plus, it can be a strategy that you use ongoing even after this pandemic is over. And I think that's one of the benefits that this time is stretching us to look at these opportunities to be able to put in place. So if you need more detail on that, I'd be glad to provide that for you. So any final words, Kaleen, Laura, or Andy?
Ladies?
I would say keep on keeping on. Again, as Rick said, I think the silver lining in all of this is that we are defying boundaries that we've normally set of, the four walls of your school, and what you're implementing now is not just to get you through for the next few months, but to improve all of your processes and communication to family. So you're doing a great job. Keep going.
Excellent. I think that's a great way to conclude our broadcast. And Kaleen, Laura, and Andy, I so appreciate you spending an hour with us. You had great insight and advice, and I appreciate our friendship and partnership that we've had over the years. So keep on keeping on, in the words of Kaleen Goodeill. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week, 12 o'clock on Monday, 3 o'clock on Wednesday. See you then.
Thank you, folks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.